Hey everybody, Dacia here, and special edition of Corporate Caffeine. Now, you guys know if you've seen me before that my favorite thing to do on social media is to introduce you to some of the most brilliant and inspired and big-hearted people that I know, and I have been wildly blessed with some pretty incredible people in my life. God is so good in regards to that. And today, I'm bringing on one of my dear friends, Stanton Williams, to introduce you to. Now, here's why. So before I jump into this and let Stanton tell you who he is and kind of what his mastery is, it's because Stanton lives and breathes the world of people and culture. And there's a lot of complexities when it comes to people and to finding our potential and to figuring out how to collaborate in the business world so that we maximize our value, working together instead of siloed and frustrated and disengaged. And so there's so much crazy in the world, and this big great resignation that supposedly we are entering in. I thought, let's bring Stanton on so he can talk a little bit about what he's seeing in this world. So Stanton, thank you so much for coming on with me today.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dacia. It's great to be here.
Okay, so you work with Culture Index and you help companies maximize their collaboration and their unity. So and not to mention, you're a multi-time entrepreneur. You've always got stuff going on. So why, after all the wide range of experiences you've had, why did you end up just being attracted to diving into people problems and to helping people figure out their place in the business world? Because it's not necessarily an easy place.
Right. So, any of us that are in leadership, one of our greatest challenges and opportunities is understanding our people, understanding how to motivate them, uh, avoiding demotivating them, helping to make sure that they're properly aligned, doing what they were born on this earth to do. So, I'd always used uh, personality profiles to help with that. It was only when I was made aware of this program that I understood that the study of this space goes so much deeper. So I was a client before I started doing this, and the program really is about understanding that each of us are born or wired early in our lives with unique traits. Nature and nurture are involved in setting those traits. And once those traits are set, at least for the traits that we measure, they are set. They don't change. So when we understand who people are, it's a lot easier to really get them properly aligned. But I will tell you this, Dacia, that it's a lot easier to get it in your head than it is to go to your heart. At least I will speak for myself, because when I was exposed to this knowledge, I was shocked. How can I possibly be 48 years old at the time, which was a few years ago, and only now hearing about this? How could that be? So I go back to work, and I did not immediately apply the knowledge because I was busy, and I started recognizing negative behavior on the part of my best employee. And at first, I was very frustrated with him. But I thought, why would Jesse be acting like this, especially to someone like me? I own the business. And then that was when I reflected and I thought, why is he acting like this? And I reflected on my training, and I realized I was the problem. So I apologized to him. He said, yes, you are the problem.
Oh gosh.
He did. He said it. He said, it's really annoying. And Jesse's a nice guy. He would never have come to me directly and said that. So I felt terrible, and and really from there on worked very hard to adjust. Now it was years later. I was talking to him about this. He didn't even remember about it, so it scarred me more than it did him. But we as leaders all want to make sure if we're going to be a successful, if we're going to realize our potential, we have to get over ourselves and treat others the way they want to be treated.
I mean, there's just so many things that you said right there that I love. And working backwards to forwards, first of all, I love the idea that the more you know about your team members and the people around you, the more opportunity there is for you to grow as a leader, for to grow as a human, and to be good to people. And I think my work with branding. A lot of times when we're talking to companies and we're talking about their differentiators or their brand personality, they take it for granted, right? They say, I mean, isn't everyone like that? And
Right.
it's always a resounding no. Actually, no, not everyone is like you, not organizationally, not specifically, not personally. And, when you're talking about that we are wired a certain way, I get excited by that. I do not find that to be limiting because you're not talking about a learner mindset or skill set. You're literally talking about the unique creations that we are and all of the amazing circumstances and collisions that create us to be individuals that have something to contribute and that have specific environments and specific needs and specific motivation factors, which you brought up, that help us achieve our highest and best value in serving others. And so, I mean, I think this is so exciting to
Right.
be able to really just put a powerful, profound focus on people and to have a two-way street in regards to how do we do this thing called life and business together in the best possible way, in a way that's healthy, not just because we're profitable collaborators, but because we're good for each other, that we've learned how to respect what's actually happening naturally inside of our own approaches and hearts and heads. So I think that's so exciting. So moving over to this great resignation idea, first of all, is it hype or are you seeing that? Like, is there a lot of churn out there or is it just lots of headlines?
There is that has become a big challenge for most all of our clients now. It's a greater challenge at the hourly pay level. But I just got back from Kansas, and they've raised their hourly wage from $10 an hour to $15 an hour. So it's just to remain competitive. And there are other companies in the area that are actually paying more. But yes, I have personal experience in this area because one of my sons, my oldest son, is part of the Great Resignation. So he had been working with Schwab for a little over 2 years, and he had been promoted. He was doing fine, but he never felt fulfilled. He didn't feel like he had traveled enough, and so he just got back from a 1 month trip in Europe. So he resigned back in March. And I'd never heard. I'm a dad, so I'd never heard of that. You just quit a job without any plans. I'm like, well,
Exactly.
what are you gonna go back and look? I don't know. I'll figure that out. So, like, okay. So now to his credit, he had saved um, a lot of money. He doesn't blow money, and he'd say he's only 28. Have to think about that for a little bit. So, and he had saved more money than I had saved at that age, but so that helped. But yeah, it just it doesn't make that one's new. That was new for me.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, like thinking about, your son and this trend. And I've got 3 teenagers, so they're not in the full blown working world yet, although most of them have jobs. But, this generation coming up, the younger generations that are in the workplace right now, a lot of people can say, oh, they've got expectations or they feel entitled or this, that, and the other. But you know what? I don't think it's such a bad thing for people to be saying to themselves and to the world through their choices, hey, I have a lot to give and I want to be in an environment that brings that out, and that I want to strive on purpose for something that is significant and meaningful. And it's not just about being successful, like your son had seen success, but it's, it's about a broader definition of success. And I think that's fantastic. But what's your take on it? I mean, like, is it about job satisfaction? Is it about joy? Like, what helps people? And I love the phrase that Dwight in the chat just said. He's saying we shall be wired to win. Like, what are those things that help a culture or a person be wired to win, to be set up for success?
Well, we're all wired to win. Some of us are more naturally I versus ours, and some of us are more we versus me.
Yeah.
So Jason Witten is a team-oriented player, wonderfully successful. Now, talent aside, when he said, "I want to win as part of a team," I mean, what mattered more to him than the accolades was winning the Super Bowl, which they didn't when he was there. He was serious. Michael Irvin, wonderful player. That he was more. He wanted to win. He wanted the team to win, of course, but he was much more. He had a higher inner-directed ego system. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think it would be easy to naturally say, oh, a team player, a we person is better than an I person. But you're not talking about saying one is good and one is bad, or you should only hire we people versus I people. You're talking about a different approach to how people win, and a different way that they function and go about things. Is that correct?
That is correct. Now, I will say there is no wrong personality. There's no wrong set of what we call dots, but there are predictably patterns that are much more likely to accomplish certain things. So when it comes to scaling a business, I'm looking for change agents who are not naturally nice people. But like Jocko Willink says, and this is powerful coming from him. So Jocko's a former SEAL. So what he says is he learned early in his career that he had to get over himself. So one of his mantras is get over yourself. And if we don't see people with bigger egos display that unnatural humility, they will self-limit their career success. So that's one of the things that took me longer to learn than I would have liked. In hindsight, of course, nobody in my 20s was not quite as open. But the reason is because people like me tend to learn from road rash, making the mistakes.
Me too.
I don't tend to learn as well from just somebody telling me. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I mean, it's great because it goes straight back to, your point about self-awareness, that the more that you can make choices, you can learn to express yourself differently or understand the world based on your tendencies and what's happening. So, I mean, I think that's super, super important, but, I mean, also natural. So speaking honestly, it's the weirdest, strangest thing. I am obviously a hashtag extrovert, shocker to everyone watching this, right? But there's, I think, a natural tendency for people to immediately, name extroversion or charisma as the fix all, end all, be all of everything. But let me tell you, I mean, and I actually had to say this to a new client the other day because we were talking about whether or not I was going to be the lead CMO for them or whether it was going to be one of my team members. And I finally said to them, listen, I'm a disruptor. I'm going to break all of the hard work that you've done. It's what I do. You do not want me in this scenario, and I said, one of my team members much more process oriented, much more mentoring. I mean, he has a more calm cadence to him, but I'm like, he will scale what you are doing and like optimize
Right.
to nobody's business. That is not me, and I think it's tempting to just assign success or natural ability or this or the other to certain personalities that we are either familiar with or that seem like a certain prototype that we've heard about, but it's not necessarily true, I mean, and like really organizing your understanding of different levels of strengths and different wirings, different approaches, I think is absolutely critical. Because even if you just look at finance and analytics and operations and marketing and leadership and doing, and I mean, those are all critical components to a business, and
Right.
they require different approaches.
Right.
So I think it's so important.
Well, so a lot of what I do is help people understand who they need for any role. I mean, whether they're an existing team member or whether they're applying for an open position. So, as an example, since you brought that up, you have unique gifts. Only 5% of all people on Earth have similar wiring, but you're an extreme version of that, which means that only a fraction of all people on Earth are Dacia. So
Thank God for that.
that's great. So there are people who need who you are, but are they ready for you? Right. So that's why you have other people on your team that are different, because you aren't the answer to everything any more than I'm the answer to everything. When I started to understand and value people that were different than me and understand I need that around me, that's when I started to have the most success, right?
Yes. And I think that's so critical. And that's what gets me so excited about this is we are created for connection. And that means that we are never going to be able to do things, all of the things by ourselves, because we're literally created with shortcomings that other people were created to fill and to meet us in and to create a collaborative ecosystem,
Right.
because I can't do everything and neither can you or neither can anybody listening. And
Right.
I think that is the biggest opportunity to really embrace, because it represents personal growth, but also unity and just respect for other people. And I mean, I could just go on and on. I just get so excited learning about people and learning about all the possibility when you recognize people's uniqueness and you decide to move forward with clarity and learning how to
Yep.
communicate best with each person.
Well, so you referenced the creator in your opening, statement. This is the creator, because we need in a thriving, growing organization, particularly once we get to a certain point, we need all of the gifts in the right places.
Yes.
And again, Dacia, the key to me, and I just do everything I can to emphasize this, and as much as it was for my own shortcomings as a leader or my own challenges, because my nature is just to go at it the way I go at it. So I have to, and we as leaders have to be very intentional about treating others the way they want to be treated. It's so much more respectful, and it's so much more motivating. It makes people want to go through brick walls when they see leaders going out of their way, being intentional about treating them the way they want to be treated.
And I mean, I want to reiterate what you just said, because I think it would be easy to listen to what you just say and fly by it. But you didn't say treat others the way you want to be treated yourself. You said treat others how they want to and need to be treated. I mean, it is a dramatic mind shift. Like I talk oftentimes about value is defined by the customer, value is defined by a recipient. It does not matter what you think about your value that you bring organizationally or individually. Like it is only about the person that is receiving or using or benefiting from that value. And so I love that, because you are so on point. The motivation, the inspiration, the attaboy, the promotion, the raise, the bonus, the redirect, right? The coaching, it doesn't matter, positive or negative, what you're giving, if it's not received in a way that helps them thrive and be their best self, it doesn't matter what you thought about what you just did for your team.
Right.
You know, I mean, it just went straight out, like
Right.
straight on past. Like you lost all of that in the rearview mirror.
It's me. It's me, and it's my example with Jesse. I went at it the way I go at it, and that was demotivating to him, right? So
Yep.
then I
Yep.
had to get over myself and say, that's not right. It's once I understood it, that it's not right if I continue in that way.
I know. And you mentioned earlier about learning via road rash, and it is so painful. And I can look back at numerous roles in relationships, and I do feel that, catch in my chest as I've learned that, the tension that I felt or the confusion that was more in my gut, but that I couldn't clarify, was 100% based on because they didn't really understand how they were wired and how they could bring value. And I kept just trying to ram my approach and my communication approach, which
Yeah.
can be a lot. It can be
Yeah.
a lot of words, just like trying so hard. And it was not a lack of caring. It was not disengagement. It was just like just a miss. I mean, hindsight being 2020, it was heartbreaking at the time. It's still heartbreaking to think about some of those situations. But, for me and you, apparently, like, we learn things when we learn them. However, it's great when you have smart people teaching you and accelerating your success and your self-awareness a little faster.
Right. Exactly.
So Stanton, what encouragement or what advice or what message would you give to people in this tumultuous world, especially where there's so much conversation about team churn and a lack of a talent pool and just complexity in regards to, business relationships? What would you say to people out there?
Well, I think the most important place to focus is on the existing staff. I just spoke with a client this morning who has lost 16 out of 60 of their employees, which has now compromised their ability to deliver. Now, there are some extenuating circumstances that are beyond this, but so many of us focus on hiring, and when we first focused on retaining the talent that we have by making sure everybody's in the right seat based on who they are, and by making sure that we are motivating them based on what they need, that's where we start. And then we go to, let's make sure that when we have these open positions, let's make sure we get that right. So plenty of ideas for how to open up that funnel. But one of the things I would ask everyone listening, or that may be listening later, is that as business leaders, we are in a war for talent. How much are we acting like that? So if we're doing only what everybody else is doing, how are we going to win the war for talent?
Bravo.
If we realize it, we're going to have to be pretty intentional about winning that war, and that means taking some steps that others aren't taking.
Yes. Bravo. And people are worth fighting for, so do the battle within that you have to be a better leader. Do the battle inside of your culture to fix things and keep people and honor their resources and grow their potential. Sit in the discomfort and exactly go do the unique things that are going to help you hire people that truly will thrive, because you're coming into it and they are coming into it with open eyes and some significant intentionality, as well as tools to really set them up for success. Like, yes, I freaking love what you just said there. Yes.
Think about when's the last time you were an employee? I mean,
Well, technically I'm an employee of every single one of my clients.
Okay, so
and my kids and everyone else. But yeah, no, it would have been 8.5 years ago.
so
7
when
years ago.
there have been a few times in my career when I was a free agent, but I always wanted to be wanted for who I am. Our team members want to be wanted for who they are. So
Yes.
most of us, only 27% of all of us are truly motivated by money, meaning I got to make more money today. How do I make more money today? That's not enough. I got to make more money. So, but that's not most of us.
Mm-mm.
So we can satisfy and retain talent for the rest without focusing. They want to be paid fairly, but everybody wants to be paid fairly. But when they truly feel valued for who they are, which means being intentional, then what's the chance you're going to be treated like that somewhere else? It's not
Yes.
great.
No, exactly. Exactly. And one of the things that I just want to like on that note bring up a smile that like lights me up every time. So, one of your clients that I know very well, you helped him build his team. And every time I'm on a Zoom call with him or anything, and he's kind of got a dry personality, he's very analytical mindset. And every time he brings up his team, he literally can't help but smile because he's so mind blown at how committed they are, how unique they are, and just what they bring to the table. And he's armed in a way to keep them,
Right.
and help them grow. And it's not about charisma. It's not about vision. It's not about how much he's paying. And I mean, it is the coolest thing to see
Yeah.
his face. Just like, I mean, literally, he doesn't even realize, but he smirks every time he mentions even a single person on his team, no matter what role. And just to
Yeah.
see that transformation, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
what a great environment. I mean, like, and of course, it's setting him up to be a great boss because he's delighted by his team. Like, it's so cool.
It's
So,
awesome. But it also, think about it, how much more rewarding is it as a human when you're able to do that for other people? Like,
yes. Yeah. And so, of course, you are drawn to this work. I mean, like, goes right back to the first question. I mean,
right.
that makes so much sense. So, Stanton, where can people find you?
That would be 817-480-7557 or swilliams@cultureindex.com.
You guys, Stanton has been an absolute blessing in my life. He is a constant source of wisdom and insight. So I encourage you to reach out to him, follow him. He's always got the coolest stuff going on LinkedIn. And just thank you so much because you've got such a generous heart. And that's why I was just beyond delighted that you said yes. And folks, it took a little bit of prodding. But thank you, Stanton. Really, I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Daisy. I really appreciate you.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.